Um, can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect.
Let me turn you up. I can't hear you very well, but that's my volume. All right, say something, sis.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect,
All right, perfect.
loud and clear. Okay. Pot of coffee's almost ready. You got
So
good stuff.
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
bring something up while you're doing what you're doing. I'm gonna bring something up. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, I I, I want to talk about. Let me find it really quick. Um, I did a. Let's see if it's in here really quick. One second. One second. Just got to find it really quick. Okay. So this is something I wanted to bring up because I think this is really um it's really important to some of the things. Like right now I know that there are huge storms and you brought that up earlier, and so I kind of want to address that. But I
Mm-hmm.
actually did this study on this where I found that the Stafford Act and emergency powers gives the president broad powers during a declared emergency or disaster, and it's mostly for aid and coordination. Section 705 can be interpreted to limit certain public disclosures if they are believed to hinder response efforts. So there's no law that says do not tell the American people if a disaster is unfolding, but there are protocols and classified frameworks that can result in information being withheld during certain emergencies, often under the justification of avoiding mass panic, national security threats, or civil disorder. Um, the National Security says that the government operates under presidential emergency action documents, classified executive orders, and directives prepared for use during extreme national emergencies. These are not publicly available, but classified examples suggest that they may suspend impose martial law, or limit communication during catastrophic events. Communication thing deal because
You're
we
cutting
saw a
out
lot of.
for
I'm
almost
cutting out.
every, yeah, for kind of every 4 or 5 words.
Ah, they would, wouldn't they?
And it might
Um,
happen because I'm trying to share this.
let's see. Well, my internet is good.
Yeah, you're
Everything's
better now,
good.
but while you were reading it, you're better now, but while you were reading
Huh.
it was, yeah, it was weird. You cutting that, trying to cut out.
All right. Right, right. So I'm going to read that again then, because the
Okay.
government operates
Oh,
presidential emergency documents.
it's
Can you hear
cutting.
that?
It's doing it again.
They're doing it again.
Yes, they're doing it
All
again.
right. Um, well, crap. Um, well, oh my gosh. Okay, so let me brainstorm really quick on how I could get around this one.
Okay,
Because, like I
I've got
said, they
I've got
try to move.
something. I've got something because I could make out what you were trying to say. There is
Well,
legislation passed that gives the POTUS, POTUS, emergency powers to basically enforce dictatorial control under the guise of a natural disaster or some
it
kind of
lets them decide who's
catastrophe.
going to broadcast what they're going to tell the people and what they're not going to tell the people. Which, didn't you just hear something recently? Which you shared this with me. Didn't you
Mm-hmm.
just hear recently that they were going to eliminate one of the broadcasting systems?
Mm. Oh, cutting budgets, budget cuts would affect um, emergent emergency not emergency response, um, weather alert systems. Budget cuts
Right.
would affect how soon and how quickly those are affected by somebody who's going to be affected by a storm. Less
Right. And it had
advance
to do
notice.
with the hurricane system, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
mostly. And they're trying to bring it back to like hackers or some mess like that. It's all
Right.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
Right. But that's where, so in the first part that I read this in, the Stafford Act and the emergency powers, we know that the president has these broad powers that's declared during an emergency or disaster. But there is designated officials who take control of all communications, and that with them saying, hey guys, we're no longer going to supply this hurricane information prior to these hurricanes, it can cause devastating effects, such as, like right now, there's a storm system coming to Florida, right? What's the name of that storm system?
The one that came through that's heading up the East Coast now that came across the peninsula of Florida last night was called Tropical Storm Chantel. Now, here's the funny thing. I did not know until the night that storm was hitting. I have AccuWeather app on my phone. Last year, I was getting alerts for every freaking twig that snapped. Okay, this year they're not. They're not um, showing you what's active. There's a whole nother one coming through right now. Does it have a name? I don't know. It probably does, but they ain't saying.
Right, which isn't new because in fact there's also when I did my little study, I found out that 3 Mile Island, which happened in 1979, I would have been 2 years old. Officials delayed full disclosure of the severity of the nuclear incident. Then you had Fukushima, which was Japan, 2011. There was info suppression on that, and the US government had monitored that closely. Then you had the 19 incident, and initial memos and the warnings were not made public immediately to avoid panic. So, in some sense, what they're saying is that better for national security to kind of people against this very thing. But we can see that that's a little harsh and not so smart, because did we not just get reported that 27 children were just unalive because of a flash flood that went through Texas?
Which was basically what appeared to be a hurricane that formed over a landmass. Now, I do want to put into clarification here just how big the state of Texas is. Okay. And just how far away, 6 hours away in Texas, you're still 6 hours away in Texas. It's crazy how big that daggum state is. Anyway, for a storm like that to just form over land like that with the kind of water that it brought, it would have had to have brought Gulf water, but it formed right over the land out of nowhere.
Right. And if they had been paying attention, which by the way, don't get all weirded out by the numbers on my screen, because just so you know, YouTube does this to me, and there could be 10 people in here, and you wouldn't know because of the way that they play with my thing. They want me to get quiet, not say anything. So I can literally hang up now, and it'll say 10 people are watching for like 10 minutes each. So it's 100 minutes that are watched, but I only had it on for 10 minutes, and in the 10 minutes there showed to be like one viewer. You know what I mean? So the numbers don't ever add up on this platform for me, which I just let it go. Not a big deal. So don't worry about it, especially because playback, even though they make everything private, I'll make sure I go through and make this not private. But moving forward with what you were just saying, um, I think, I mean, that just further proves that there is some hidden line agenda that has nothing to do with whether you're going to put the people in panic. I think it has everything to do, helps them see, because the strong survive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there are, and I kind of want to point this out because I think this is so important as to what I'm getting ready to go into. There is continuity of government plans. These are emergency strategies meant to keep the government functioning during collapse level events like a nuclear strike or a massive earthquake. Part of these include tight information controls, and this is important, tight information controls to maintain order, especially around nuclear facilities, military assets, or civil unrest. So, this basically is telling us that their main priority doesn't have to do with keeping the people safe or to ensure the safety of the people. And we could see that with the incident that happened in Ashford, North Carolina. I mean, if people didn't get it then, they're not going to get it at all.
Hmm.
They're looking out for themselves and trying to maintain order and control. And without us understanding that in and of itself, people will always line themselves up to be caught in the crossfire. And I think that's really important right now to understand because
Hmm.
so many people, once like these scenarios happen, one of the first things people do is run to FEMA. Well, they were
Hmm.
just
Oh, you're cutting out.
wasn't FEMA just dismantled?
I don't know if they were dismantled, but they were defunded quite a bit.
Yeah, let's see really quick. This is something I haven't went into. So June 26th, we know about FEMA elimination plans. Let's see what's stated here. This was posted June 26, 2025 at 5:38 a.m. President Trump says the Federal Emergency Management Agency should be eliminated and that states should take on more responsibility for responding to and preparing for extreme weather and other disasters. That would mean big changes for the millions of Americans who rely on FEMA after hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes, floods, and other weather disasters every year. The cost of weather disasters in the U.S. has skyrocketed in the last decade as climate change causes more intense weather and populations grow in areas that are at high risk for hurricanes, wildfires, and other destructive events. FEMA currently works with prepare for disasters, provide ground help during emergencies, and pays out billions of dollars for repairs. Emergency management experts and state disaster response officials say that FEMA plays a crucial role that state governments cannot handle on their own. This is very important to understand, too. Here's what we know about the Trump administration's plans to eliminate FEMA. President Trump says the agency could be eliminated as soon as December 2025. So, right now, it hasn't been eliminated because we haven't made it to December.
Right.
Speaking in the Oval Office in June, he said that major changes to FEMA would come after the Atlantic hurricane season ends in November. So, right now, because that's the hurricane storm system that you're talking about would
Hmm.
come from the Atlantic, right?
No, the Gulf.
Okay. Okay. So, this one's originating in the Gulf.
Hmm. Well, it's come up in the Gulf. Like it can go either way around Florida, but it's from the
Right. So,
Atlantic.
what do you mean?
Period.
What,
Yes, it is the Atlantic, technically.
well, wait, because I know that golf is on the west end. I'm geographically retarded, so you got to help a person like
But let
me.
me.
Because
Okay.
I know
Okay.
that golf is on the western side of Florida, and the Atlantic is on the eastern side of Florida.
Right. But
Now,
they
it
don't
is
separate it.
possible.
They don't separate it as far as like classifying the hurricane season. And with the research I told you I was doing into the hurricanes and the names and that whole thing, I learned that all of the storms that happen on the uh, to the east of Mexico is the Eastern Atlantic region. That's the basin. That's the basin, the Atlantic basin. Okay, that's where they name those storms certain names. If they originate in the Atlantic, anywhere, usually off the coast of Africa, but not always. And then there's storms that form on the western side of Mexico, and those are the Eastern Pacific.
Okay.
But storms
Oh,
can cross over Mexico. Like they can start in the eastern Pacific and come across into the Gulf. So the Gulf is a particularly like vulnerable spot because they can have hurricanes come over from across Mexico and over across Florida. There have
right.
been instances where an eastern Pacific hurricane has dramatically affected the state of Florida.
Right.
Hmm.
Wasn't there a hurricane that actually originated on the western coast of Florida and then actually traveled through the coast and up into the eastern side and then up into the Carolinas?
Are you talking about Helene? No, that one did not come across. That one was on the Atlantic list. That was a
Okay,
name
so it
on the
started.
Atlantic list.
All
It
right.
originated in the Atlantic. Now,
Right.
there was an instance of a tropical. Hold on, I'd have to go get my stuff, and I don't have it right now. But there is documentation of I think it was Amanda. No, they're using that one. It's another one that literally did come across. It was a hurricane. It kind of lost, it petered out a bit going over the landmass of Mexico, but once it made it into the Gulf, it strengthened back up to at least a Category 3 before it hit Central Florida.
Hmm.
I'd have to go and dig out that name, but yeah, found that in my
Right.
research as well.
Yeah. Well, you saying this kind of brings up a really good point in my head, which is the Department of Defense, when they decided that they were going to take down, the ability to detect and warn the people, when they detected this hurricane or any hurricanes that would come through, and then give a substantial alert
Hold on, you cut out
out
just
of the area. When they
you cut out
decided to
for a
take that
second.
away, huh?
You cut out for about 3 seconds,
Man,
like
so when
completely.
they take
Oh,
that away, am I still there?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So when the Department of Defense decided to take away the emergency alert system, essentially, because they said, well, we're not going to alert you guys in advance anymore because we've had a budget cut. When they decided to do that, it put a lot more people in harm's way, in danger.
Yeah,
And I think it's important to pay attention to those things, but then it's also important to understand that there are other activities that are happening simultaneously. For instance, let me show you this article really quick. Let me get it. 1 second. Okay. Which this is actually a big deal because I'm not going to spell it out for anyone, but either you catch the drift or you don't. Um, but there is a read between the lines. Make things connect. 2 and 2 does equal 4. It really does. And I'm going to read this here to show the connection. And it says AI summary. It's what Google pulled up. I'm not an AI fan, but hey, we're going to read it anyways. It says heavy storms can create conditions that may lead to outbreaks of certain diseases, including those historically associated with plague, flooding, and
mm,
disease spread. So they say that storms often cause flooding, which can disrupt sanitation systems and contaminate water supplies. Standing water can become a breeding ground for mosquitoes, increasing the risk of vector borne diseases. Then you have the plague overview, which is the plague caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis is primarily transmitted through fleas that infest rodents. And modern outbreaks are rare. Conditions following severe storms can facilitate the spread of the bacteria if rodent populations are affected. I want,
Right. That's why I'm
I
glad I
want,
have a cat.
huh?
I said that's why I'm glad I have a cat.
Right. Um, I want to actually remind people of
What
this
pestilence means
because right now there's a storm system that's going through Florida. It hit
right
last
now.
night.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be there right now.
It is. It is.
Okay. All
I can
right.
verify that.
So there are multiple articles on these things. About the mosquitoes that are a concern at Alligator Alcatraz. Now, when a storm comes through, if Alligator Alcatraz had a bunch of mosquitoes, when that storm comes through, it's going to move that population of mosquitoes into another area. So if there was a concern there, it's going to be an additional concern later on. And not to mention the way that they breed. So they're definitely gonna be breeding and having babies, and the population is just gonna get greater because there's a lot of water. A lot. And then we know that a company released 150,000 genetically modified mosquitoes. That was in 2021. That was the Bill Gates biotech firm Ozotech. The EPA had okayed plans in 2022 to release 2.4 million more genetically modified mosquitoes. So,
Mm.
why is it important? Well, remember, if the alert system, if they had decided that we're not going to use this alert system, it costs too much money. The American people do not need to know that there is a storm coming through in advance. Well, what else do you not know as a
So
people?
much. So much.
Say that again.
Hey, so much.
Yeah, so much. Look at this. And I think this is so important because I'm glad that pulled up this article because the president appointed a council of cabinet members, governors, and emergency management experts that were tasked with recommending changes to FEMA. That group, the FEMA Review Council, had its first meeting in May and is supposed to make recommendations by mid-November. Guys, people have to use their voices. We need to use our voices. We pay taxes. And I think that when we make it harder for them because we use our voices and we push back, then it doesn't make it so easy. I feel like far too many people are just being silent and saying, it's okay. Do what you want to
Yeah.
do.
Just know
Right.
this. Just know this. Our Father says He did not create us to be silent. He
Right.
gave us our
We got
voices
our
for a
voices.
reason. Amen.
So I also want to say, okay, let me read this here and then I'll get back to this idea about these mosquitoes in this storm because it all relates. All of it does. The president has repeatedly suggested FEMA is hopelessly flawed. Well, our whole system is hopelessly flawed, by the way. At the first meeting of the FEMA Review Council, the council's co-chair, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Holmes said, the president and I have had many discussions about this agency. I want to be very clear. The president wants it eliminated as it currently exists. He wants a new agency. And only Congress can fully eliminate FEMA, although the executive branch can act on its own to restructure or reduce the size of the agency. It says a bipartisan bill making its way through Congress would simplify the process for disaster survivors to apply for federal assistance and remove FEMA from the Department of Homeland Security, giving the agency a direct line to the president. Look, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Our whole system's flawed. The whole system. And, the people that we think we can trust and that, they're there to help us and to bring us some peace and be a crutch in the time of our need, are the very people we need to stay away from. I mean, I
Oh,
don't know how to tell you this other than to say that you have to be diligent in understanding if there's an agency out here that's set to help you, okay? But when they come in because you have been hit with a disaster, and then you've got people from all over the United States coming in to help you. They're bringing you food, they're bringing you water, they're bringing you propane tanks in the middle of winter, by the way. So we know what happened with Ashford and
yes,
Steve.
we do.
So they're
Mm-hmm.
bringing propane tanks, they're bringing in gasoline for generators, they're bringing in generators. And then FEMA says, sorry, people, you can't come in here. You can't help these people. You've got to go. And if you do come back, we're gonna arrest you. Well, there's a
Right.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because
we've
here's the
got to be
thing,
very
nothing,
cognizant.
right, because nothing that these people needed were actually being brought to them. Okay.
Right, through that agency. What did they do? They even told people, now here's the wild part, what they came in to help with. They came in and said, okay, you sign this paper. We're going to give you $750. Now, these are people who literally had their entire houses washed down the stream. And they were given
Yes.
$750. That's not even enough to stay in a hotel room for an entire month.
Just a week. Most of them, like hotels, where they'd be able
Right,
to find a vacancy. That's
right,
that's $100 a day. Hey,
right,
here, we'll get you a room for a week.
right. So they give them, what, 7 days? Now, here's the thing, though. People are coming in trying to help, and they were being turned away. They were also being threatened with arrest for interfering. Now, if you're there, if you're an agency that's there for the people, on the people's side to help the people, and you were very limited fund wise, then why would you not want the help of the rest of the general public who's coming in and bringing the clean water, who's bringing money and
Oh,
funds in to house these people? Why would you turn them away?
you want me to say the quiet part out loud, or
Do
are
it.
we just assuming that that
No, no, do
our
it.
audience is able to deduce this? It's because our operation is not to help anyone. The whole operation was to wipe everything out, bring people down to square 1, 0, rock bottom, and usher them either into camps or freedom cities, smart cities for those who, yeah.
You know, I always try to tell people, like, don't eat their food.
Especially not
No.
the V. We talked about this, didn't we?
Yes,
Wouldn't
yes.
not
Well,
gonna work. You know,
so
there's a certain gas station that was popular back home. Kind of got a teal green um, emblem, and it starts with the letter V.
yeah, yeah, Valero, you're right there. Um,
Mhm.
and matter of fact, let me use this one to point it out because, there's this article. What are they hiding? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what they're hiding. Because on this channel, one of the things I started talking about 6 years ago. It's been a long time since I started talking about this stuff. It had to do with secret hidden things that's right in front of your faces. But for some reason, the fact that I wanted to cover it, there was a whole bunch of people out there that are like, nope, get silent. Let me mess up your video. Let's take it down. Let's make your audio not work. Let's make sure these videos vanish. We're not going to let you say these two names together. So I will cut your feed. There's all those things. Well, something recently happened, and I decided, wait a minute, I've seen this before. So let me follow it. Well, I did. I followed it. And I kind of want to pull it out because let's see, where's it at real quick? Hold on 1 second. I've got two of these right here. Okay. This incident, well, let me pull this one up first because I got to just remind you guys what this is about. So this is a report that was put out in actually it says 2017, but it was out before then. I actually saw this report in 2015. But of course, we'll just leave that alone. These guys here are a really important agency. And they have a consensus that says the population was 327 million. That's the number that you'll see right there. And then by the year, that was 2017. Again, 2017. Right there. 327 million. Okay. Now, the forecast 2025. So the forecast 2025, look at the population. So what did they know that we don't know? All right. Well, not much, because I'm trying to tell y'all, I know a lot more than they let me say, and that's okay. I'm cool with them not allowing me to say things. I think you guys are far more intelligent than the guys at the top try to make you. So, or make us, I should say, because I'm in the same category as you. I'm in the same boat. So I want to kind of touch on something because I'm going to have to get off here, but this is very important because I followed that. And when I did, I was like, holy shit, I got it now. I'll show you what I mean. Just, I'm not even going to go all the way through the whole one. I'm going to let me get to the acquisition. I'm going to read this one really quick because it has a little bit of information in it that's very important. Trump says he'll start phasing out FEMA, reduce federal aid after the hurricane season. This was on June 11th, 2025. Now, let me find the statement. Trump has repeatedly said that states should bear their own recovery costs. And in March, he signed an executive order that directs state and local governments to play a more active and significant role in preparing for disasters. So while we think this is like some um, something that, the president's saying, look, guys, we don't want to take care of this ourselves. We need you to come sure people are safe. Well, in reality, what's being stated here is you guys are in limbo. We're all in limbo. That nobody's going to take care of anything for you, for me, or anyone else.
Well, see, here's the thing. As we know, for something new to come up, they must destroy what was in it, what was there before. They must bring down what was
Right.
there before they can usher in what they would rather implement. And at this
So,
point, here's the thing, they are not worried about saving anyone. They have
right.
calculated the cost, and it has been determined to be collateral damage, okay,
Yes. Yes.
for the end result. Okay, so I'm gonna again, like I'm famous for, I will say the quiet part out loud. What they want to do is implement something for weather control and people control, i.e., strategically placed encampments known as smart cities or freedom cities or whatever you want to call them. Select the term for your own enslavement. That's what it's going to be.
True enough. Well, you made a statement that I want to kind of highlight here, which was that they're not coming to help. They, they like
This is a massive land grab. This is a massive land grab.
absolutely, but it's also
Just
the
like now.
development. If they destroy, because what you said, they've got to destroy something to bring something else in. So, out of the ashes, they reference the phoenix all the time, where it's out of
Oh,
the ashes, they come rising. And so the same thing applies here. Well, that's where, okay, so we were talking about mosquitoes And this is so important. I hope you guys take notes because this is so important. Because she's right. She's absolutely right. Out of the ashes, right? And there's things that they have for when they're going to occur. I don't know. I thought they would have occurred by now, but they haven't. So we're still here. And when I started following this last thing, when the you guys remember where there was 3 officers that were ambushed. Well, I figured out what they were talking about. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. Hold on. I'm going to read something to you. It's going to seem like it's so far fetched, so left field, doesn't match up. It does. It does. Remember in the book, on my channel, I've talked about this numbers of times. I'm not going to bring up the name of the book. You guys should know this by now. If you're new, click on my link tree, go figure it out. I've got a website dedicated to it, so there's nothing that's going to be left to your imagination. You could go figure it out by the work that I produced. And there's errors in it and stuff like that. That's fine with me because you don't know the beast I'm fighting to bring this stuff to you guys in the first place. But there was on June 22nd at 2025 at 3 a.m. There was an article that came out in Yahoo News, and it was about a 1894 Pullman strike. The Illinois governor fought president's decision to send in troops. This stemmed from another article. I've stated many times that things come in piece by piece. And so I was following these pieces. I was going in and looking at each and every piece. Well, Geld was the chime tower. So I have found, and that's directly in the book, the very last book of The Last President, I found that he literally kind of lines out what's going to be happening in the future. He gives little bits and pieces as to what is going on. We have some clues here. We have 1894. We have Pullman strike. We have the Illinois governor. And they go on to talk about how Cleveland's decision to send in the U.S. Army into Chicago during the Pullman strike. This led me to believe, now we know right now, what is it, the Navy and the National Guard that's in LA right now? Do you know?
Yes, the National Guard. No, it was the Marines.
It's
Wasn't it the Marines that were sent?
okay, it was the Marines. I was thinking it was the Marines, but I wasn't sure it was the Marines and the Navy, but I'm sure the National Guard is out
No,
there.
it was the
Uh,
National Guard and the Marines. It was the National Guard and the Marines. I think so.
okay. So needless to say that we have armed forces on American territory right now. And a lot of people have reported, they're saying, well, what else is going because all of this seems a little too strange to be bringing. Not only do we have ICE picking up the immigrants, but then you have
They're also
entire.
picking up U.S. citizens. They're also picking up natural-born U.S. citizens.
Yes, they are. Yes, you're right. And then they're sending them out of the country. So there's all of this rhetoric that's going around this. Like, what really is going on? Well, that's where this right here just kind of blew my mind. When I followed this and I went through all of the little topics in here, I started going through trying to figure out, well, what would they be doing? And this is what I came up with. And I want you guys to pay very close freaking attention to this because this is very important. In the American Railway Union was briefly among the largest labor unions of its time and one of the first industrial unions in the United States. It launched at a meeting held in Chicago in February of 1893. The ARU won an early victory in a strike on the Great Northern Railroad in the summer of 1894. This successful strike was followed by the bitter 1894 Pullman strike, in which government troops and the power of the judiciary were enlisted against the ARU, ending with the jailing of the union's leadership for 6 months in 1895 and effectively crushing the organization. The group's blacklisted and dispirited remnants finally disbanded the organization via amalgamation into Social Democracy of America and its founding convention in June 1897. What can we take from this? Well, there was a strike, and it had to do with the railway. Now, look, just pay attention. Please.
I
This
know
is
it's so
so
exciting
important. There
about
are
here.
two topics here. And I'm going to have to get off here. There are two topics here. And I think you'll pick up some things be here. A rail strike loom. Remember, this was what.
You're
See,
cutting
hold
out,
on.
sis.
What?
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. You're cutting out.
Uh, it was November 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, please, Lord, allow this to be heard. Father God, allow the people to hear this. This came out of Omaha. And this is in November of 2022, but I want you to understand that this affects us today. We're going to see this. This is what we're going to see. I'm trying to line it out for you. I can't spell it out for you. I cannot do that. I need you to read between the lines and pay close attention because this will be a big deal. The people during this time, let me point something out. The people during this time, let's say we're all in Florida, we're all in Texas, we're all in Louisiana, wherever the heck we are, okay? We're all together. And we got to come together because one of you guys drives and you have a nice little car, but another person drives and they got an SUV. But they're older. Well, the person that's younger needs the SUV because they're going to have to drive a couple states over to go get you food because now there's no longer any food being brought into your neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally, these people were going to need to drive 10, 12 hours to go get a whole bunch of food. Like y'all was going to need to put your money together so that you could buy a couple cows, okay, to get you some food. And you guys were going to need to come together, put your money together so that you could put your minds together and put your resources together and make sure you make it happen because they were not going to do it for you. Remember, they're not here to help you. We already established that. They already told us they don't care
Can I share a
if they're.
testimony?
Say
Can
that
I share a
again.
Can I share a testimony real quick? Because it just goes to show you that I know the area I'm in is in danger, but I know that my Father in heaven, I know that Jesus has me. When I did my grocery order this week, somehow I accidentally ordered 3 cases of bottled water just before these storms were hitting. I had no idea they were coming.
Right.
So
And water
while
would
it is
disappear quickly.
important, yes, and while it is important that we be wise, mindful, and cognizant of these things going on, we must also remember too that as long as we are following in the truth and following in the way and following our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, He will not allow these things to befall us.
Right. That's so true. And I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want anyone to fear anything. However, it does say to be wise as a serpent, sweet as a dove. He wouldn't tell us to be as wise as a serpent because these serpents are out here doing some really snaky things. He wouldn't tell us to do that if he didn't expect us to have that understanding so that we could, look at the ant and consider her ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. So, but this right here, and remember this says 2022, but I'm telling you this is what we're going to have to worry about. Right there. Right there. Okay? So this is going to affect what is coming into your communities, whether it is a hygiene product, food, whatever. People are going to have to start putting their minds and their resources together. Now is the time to understand who your neighbors are. If you've never cooked your neighbors cookies, probably now's the time. Start praying for them. But when I figured this one out, what? Are you serious? This is what. All right, hold on. Let me get my notes really quick because I got to get this article. Oh, and please take if anybody has people in a nursing home or anything, check on your loved ones, please, just please, and allow anything fishy to go on. You probably should have your loved ones in your own home. If you can do it, you need to. Oh, look, they took it down.
What
They
was it?
literally, it was about the acquisition.
Oh.
Hold on, let me find another article on it. It was about the acquisition. They must have heard me. They moved it. They moved it. Oh my gosh, I just had this up too. That's wild. That was quick. When I found this, I was like, Moses. Okay, let's try this again. Let's see if I've got my address on here correctly. Oh, there's an ad. Nope. Okay, hold on. I've got 2 links. That's probably it. That's it. Okay, glad I looked. That was it. There we go. All right. So please take note of this, you guys. Vallejo, and you know what? That's not Valero. So make note of this. It's Valeo. Foods Group buys Italian panettone maker Meligatti 1894. This is the brand right there. Please write this down. Find out the foods that are associated with this. Do not pick them up. I don't care if it's the last thing on earth that you need. You need to go out into your local forest and start picking some greens out of the forest, okay?
Go
Do
eat
not.
grass.
Do not.
Go eat some grass before you eat this
Yes.
stuff. Go outside
Yes.
and pick you some flowers
Yes. Go
and
forward.
chew on
Yes.
them.
Go forward. Because this, I know what they're doing. I know what they're doing. This storm, let me tell y'all something. I was talking to this sister the other day. She could testify to this. We were talking the other day, and I said, I was kind of looking through these telegraphs because the whole 2 and 3, which her and I were literally talking about this to the point where she and I was actually looking something up, and when she said this, I go, "Oh my gosh! Like you had this right." Let me find it really quick so I can bring it up. Which
Are we
one was
talking
it?
about the code?
Yeah, we were talking about, hold on, what was the article? Is right here. So firefighters, they were ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so a violent ambush leaves 2 firefighters unalived and another injured. What to know about the Idaho attack? Well, it goes on and it tells us about the location. Well, this location name is in the book itself. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. You see me right here? I said, that's a freaking book right there. That's in the freaking book. I was like, it was a relative or something to the first book. Then it's number 23. I go on, I'm writing notes. This is my notes. I'm talking to her about my notes. And then I
Mm-hmm.
go, wait a minute. I looked up one of the boy's grandfather's name, the accused. I looked it up and I saw that the accused was supposed to be a Cherokee, or the accused grandfathers had written a letter to Tennessee representatives or whatever and said, you guys are trying to take our land. Have you guys not taken enough? It was something to that effect. And I thought, well, that's awful strange, but what was it relative to? It was relative to the Fountain wind project. Let me pull it up. This is what it was relative to. So I tell our sister here, and I'm like, hey, and I gotta get ready to get off here. I tell my sister here, I said, look, there's to be a problem because I believe they're telegraphing something else. I ran into this. And so this is out of California Energy Commission. So stop fountain wind. It goes on, the fountain wind There's a lot of rhetoric on this project itself. Okay. It's out of Shasta County. Now, I'm talking to the sister about it. There was something that didn't make sense. And right, it was the timing. It was the time in which this article came out. It was 10/23/40. So I tell
Okay.
her, I go, what? Do you remember the 10/23/40?
I've got them pulled up.
Okay. Yeah. What? Tell us what the
Okay.
10/23/40 was.
Okay. So when she brought up the 10/23/40, what instantly went through my mind was, y'all remember a couple of years ago on 10/4, a certain EBS broadcast to hit every phone, couldn't opt out, that whole deal? Well, 10/4 is a police 10 code, meaning message
Yep.
received.
Yep.
And when
Message
she read
received.
me this date, when she read me this time, it was 10/40/23. And I was like, wait a minute, that sounds to me like a police 10 code because I worked in corrections. Um, so I had to learn a lot of this. And a 10/23 is arrived at scene, stand by until channel clears. And a
Yep.
A 1040 is run silent, no lights or siren.
Yep. And you see, I have that right here. Because this, I didn't just write this down. Her and I were talking about it. So I decided, hold on. It says in the article, and let me also point this out. Hold on. I'm going to show y'all something. This is what put me on this track, and I've got to I got to be off here in the next 15 minutes. I have something I have to do. So it's already 2:11, but I'm going to read something really quick and kind of get us through this. There's a spot that says, okay, no, this was the other one. Hold on. Wait. No, that's the other article. That was the follow-up article with the follow. So wait a second. I think it's this one. Oh, shit. My bad. Okay. All right. I think this is it right here. It should be anyway. So it says, no. Wait a minute. Okay. Well, and I've got a few of these because they send in these articles all have little pieces of intricate details in it, and in order to understand it, I have to go through them all. So I can look and say, oh, well, article says this, there's some repeats here, so it's something that, I kind of like disseminate, and I do that based on what the Telegraph told me to pull out of it and disseminate. And so that's where we started with the Cure de Aileen, which is the location in which it happened. But there was another article, and in it stated that they were on the mountains. Let's see. I don't know why I'm not pulling it up. I've pulled this one up. I've pulled that one up. Maybe it was this one. I don't think it was the CBS article. I could have swore it was a different one. Doing great living in Idaho. The grandfather stated that the boy didn't own a gun. Okay, grandfather, there we go. Describes pretty much a normal kid. He goes on, hikers evacuated from the mountain. Well, when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, it was just so odd. The statement itself was very, as the situation was unfolding, we still have civilians coming off of that mountain. We might have civilians that are stuck or in shock. So this is a very, very fresh situation. We are prepared to neutralize. It's currently actively pew-pewing at public safety personnel. We are prepared to neutralize this subject as quickly as possible. Well, the way that I know these guys, the way that I know that they talk, the way that I catch their innuendos is through things like this. So I decided what I was going to do was I was going to look up landslides or rock slides. And when I did, the next thing that happened, like the next day, it was within 2 days, there was a huge slide. And look at this. Landslide causes road collapse at Anmod Got. That's 43 minutes ago, 1 hour ago. That's the same one. You had Riggins, Idaho, 23 hours ago. There was a landslide blocks US 95 near Riggins, Idaho. See, milepost 200 and 201. All right. So I knew then, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I think it is. So I went through, and right when at the very end, I go, holy shit. And what took me there was these articles. There were 3 that had me just perplexed at first. And then when I ran into the acquisition of Valeo, Valeo, you need to look at the foods that's being produced out of that, because waters bring in plagues, waters bring in pestilence. Now, just like the sister here said, there's nothing to worry about if you are living correctly, but let's just keep it real. A lot of people aren't living right.
Right. And what is
I've struggled.
pestilence? Oh, sorry.
Say that again. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and what is pestilence? It's not just your regular old, disease or or illness. No, pestilence is it's particularly vicious because it comes from pests, rats, fleas, mosquitoes, cockroaches, the whole 9 yards. Pestilence,
Hmm.
disease
Right.
brought on by the overpopulation of pests.
Well, so one of the things that got me was the fact that I know that it's easy to blame something when you do something. Let's just say, like, I am Dr. Jekyll and Hyde. We're hypothetically speaking here. None of what I'm saying is true. But let's just say it's Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, right? And Dr. Jekyll, he's a little kind of crazy and everything, and he just like, I gotta make this monster. Well, how am I gonna do that? So then, oh, Hyde, he's all intelligent. He's got this perfect thing. And then, he turns into Jekyll because Hyde gave him the stuff. And then the crazy guy of himself comes out and he's like, oh, whoa, we're going to release mosquito, or we're going to release a bunch of rats, or, we'll.
You cut out, sis.
Yes, I'm sorry. There we go. I got it. Hold on a second. Okay, get ready to. There we go. My apologies. I gotta get ready to run. Um, am I back?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. So you know what? You and I can come back and go through this, but here's what I want to say, because and maybe you can look this up too.
Okay.
A few things. I'm going to throw it all in here simultaneously. Number one is, you see here, there was dozens evacuated from Austrian village after a mudslide covers parts of the Alpine Valley. This actually happened previous to that incident, but this is the one that turned me on to exactly what was going on. Now, if you have something like this, let's say Florida today is sustaining a beating from a weather event right now. Now, if you have disaster such as this, when there's rats and mice and all of these things, well, these things are supposed to so-called get into the water, your water
Mm-hmm.
supply. But if Dr. Jekyll or Hyde, what Jekyll decides, I'm going to put something in the water, and then I'm
To
going to.
breed genetically modified mosquitoes, to breed genetically modified mosquitoes and pests, these things are going to be on the next level.
I think, like right now, wherever you are in terms of water, one of the best things you can do is get a filter, even if you got to put it, directly from your water softener, uh, water tank into your regular, what comes into the house. Um, However you can get that filter on, even showering with the filter is a good idea. Just keep it all the way real.
Just to keep it all the way real.
Yeah, just I would do it. I cover myself in the blood of Jesus. I thank the Lord all the time for not allowing anything to come near me, and that's amazing. But I also use filters. Like, I'm getting ready to go put a filter on my RV again because I use
Mm.
them,
I need to get one.
and
I haven't,
yeah, I think
just
everybody
haven't
needs
had the
one.
provision for it, to be honest with you. But I feel like the Lord is giving provision at this time. So,
Oh yeah, Amen. He'll
hmm.
move you. But some of you guys don't cover yourselves in the blood of Jesus Christ. You say you believe, but you don't. You're all scared of things, and you allow these things to run and rule and reign and blah blah blah. Look, guys, I'm telling you, there's something coming through, and it's a cover. It's a cover. Right now, there are things they're releasing. Period.
Right, but I need folks to understand this too. They're not just releasing it in the water. Okay, it's what has already been embedded inside of folks.
That and food. You're right. You're right. You're
Hmm.
right. And guys, listen, let me point something out to you. Go study what black body radiation is. Okay? Go look up the Black Plague All right. I want you to look up the plague, the Ebola. All right. And I want you to go study what black body radiation is. Okay.
That's at
Look at the
Licinius pestis. That's the Licinius pestis, the
Mm-hmm.
bubonic.
Now
Mm-hmm.
I created, and I'm gonna have to jump off here because it's 2:21, and I have something I have to get done by 4. So, and it's gonna take a good hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes to get it done. So I'm gonna have to run. I'll come back, but I need people to understand that this thing, look. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to listen to me. But if you go and you pick up anything that comes out of this company here, anything connected to this group here, and you end up in a situation, well, you know why? Because this global data, July 2nd, 2025, 10:16 a.m., they announced another acquisition, snapping up Meligati 18 Panettone, Pandora, and Croissants. Financial terms of the transaction struck with Meligati 1894's owner, the Spezia family, were not disclosed. Dublin-based Valio Foods said the deal is in the line with its strategy to expand its baked sweet treats portfolio. Bake sweet treats portfolio. Stay away from it. Stay
Mm.
away from this stuff. Like it's a plague, okay? Seriously.
Because
Because
it
I
could
know
be.
people go, oh, well, you're reaching. Was I reaching when I said White Island was going to blow and the next day it blew and 19 people were unalived? Was I reaching the day that I called a couple of my friends and I said, hey, man, there's going to be this thing happening in Mobile, Alabama at a school? Was I reaching that day too? Because 2 weeks later, 10 people were unalived at a high school football game. Can I make you bigger? Is that cookies or what's that?
That looks like oat cakes, is what it says. It says 85 brands.
Oh,
They
we'll
got
have to come
85
back.
brands. Yeah. Global markets 106. 1.2 billion euro annual sales. 600 million units sold annually. International brands 85. Market leading brands 13. New products developed since our formation 171. 5,692 product SKUs. International retail partners 715. In-house production 77%. Whatever the heck all that means. But that's just my first preliminary search there into ValeoFoodsGroup.com, their website.
Oh my gosh, you can't even make this shit up. I looked
Nope.
up that number. 5692. Oh
No.
my god.
No, you
That's what
did.
it means.
What does it
Look
mean?
at
I can't
what
read it.
it means.
Hold on. Cake. Cake upon the earth. Oh my Lord, have mercy.
You can't even make that up.
Was that Greek or was that Hebrew? Check both.
Oh my
Check both.
god.
What was that Greek or was that Hebrew?
That was let's see. That's the Hebrew.
Okay, see if one comes up in Greek. Check both of them.
Okay,
That's what
let's
I
see.
do.
Yeah, that you can't even make that up. That's just wild. That's wild. Cake? Are you serious?
On the hearth. Cake on the hearth, meaning a cake that is cooking on the hearth. I can't believe that. Man,
I know,
that's why I
right?
don't let us out the basement that very often. I'm
Oh
telling
my
you.
gosh. And it's to see or to perceive in the Greek.
See, I always get more understanding when I check both.
Yeah. So
Because
I gotta
if you,
run,
hey,
but
listen, I want to add this in real quick how those correlate. And yeah, she's got to run, y'all. Um, to see or perceive, do a cake on the hearth. they're putting their technology in there to spy on you. Okay, I'm done.
True enough.
Well, we're gonna have
True
to
enough.
pick
But
that
hold
back up
on. Let me say this
later.
then, because you did bring up a really good point. But remember, Baal and the people who worshipped Baal, they fed their bellies. It was about the
Right,
belly.
and
Their
they
God
need
was
cakes
their
for the Queen
belly.
of
And
Heaven. They're
so,
making cakes for the Queen of Heaven.
yeah,
Okay,
basically,
I'm done.
essentially, exactly. And we got to see it and perceive it. And so, right now, like this thing that I just said, the website you pulled up, can you show that
Yes.
the URL so that,
URL.
yeah, because you guys want to look this up, like seriously, seriously, listen to what I'm telling you, please, especially those of you who ain't praying, those of you who have no faith, you know,
That's
and I hate to say it that way, but
VALEO. Yeah, VALEO foodsgroup.com. That is their official.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
go look that up. Look at the different food groups. Look at you don't want to be event. You do not want to go out and spend 2 cents on that. It's a matter of fact, if that is the very last thing that's on the shelf, honey, go. You got to figure something else out. Okay? Yeah, because if I were with you, I'd be like, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. We are going to the fields and we're going to go pick some leaves somewhere. Because just like she said, go eat grass. Like go eat the leaves off the trees. Do not consume this stuff. All right. And that is from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys. Um, I wish I could talk plainly and show you direct correlations and connections, but that's just the way it doesn't work like that anymore. Can so either you have my word or you don't. You know, it's all I have. And so I'm not trying to fear monger. I'm not trying to make people afraid, but there are so many people out here. Y'all ain't got no faith. You aren't operating in faith, you know? And so then when these things happen, I say them so that when they do happen and you see them come to pass, maybe that'll ignite your faith. Maybe you'll look back on this instance and go, you know what? God actually used that girl to warn me or to warn my family, warn my friends, and I didn't say anything. And then they went and consumed this stuff. And now look at them. They're all sick. So it is what it is. I appreciate you coming with me, sister. Um, you know what? As soon as I get done, I'll reach out to you. And if you're
Let me
free,
answer Shelly real quick. We were talking about some telegraphing that the upper echelons have pushed out, how it correlates with the storms that are hitting here, how it correlates with a rise in disease and pestilence coming all by design, and a food group to a food producer to avoid. That's what we were talking about here. Says I'll call you later.
yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate you doing that because I know we started out when we were talking. I had was actually reading something over how floods and storms can bring in these things, and there was actually a bunch of children that were unalived recently in a flood in Texas, and I
Yeah.
realized what this whole like hidden message was being displayed, and it has to do with this specific food groups and vendors. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that
I'm
because
gonna
I did
show
it.
it to you, Shelly. I'm gonna show Shelly real quick. She didn't see it. It's
Yeah,
a yeah.
yeah, please. Okay, yeah, take note of that. Please look at those. You can run this back. Actually, when I end this, it's going to run and say private for a minute. I'll come back into it as soon as it allows me, which normally it's about 20 minutes or so like that, and I will make it available so you could watch it. And essentially, you got to learn to read between the lines with us, with me, anyways. It's because of the topic that I talk about, and it's the information sets that I have. They never will allow me to talk freely and openly. So I have to go in a roundabout way. And I just want to thank you, V, for helping me stay on track and allowing me to kind of jump around at
You
the
know,
same
Shelly, I'm
time.
not really sure. I'll call you here in a few if you're free, and we can definitely dig into that. Maybe have something to come back. Yeah, yeah, that one.
Yeah.
VALEO.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? You know exactly what we've just been talking about. If I
Absolutely.
have something I have to do, I'll get back with you about right around 4 o'clock.
Okay, I'll be free. That's what 7 my time. You're 3 hours ahead
Yep.
behind me. Mhm. I'll make
Yeah.
sure to be ready.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, you be blessed.
All right. Love you, sis.
Love you too. Bye.